Hello again. Welcome back to my videos on Americanisms Explained. We're still going through some high school stuff. Probably seems like high school at this point, where it just never ends. At least that was my experience with high school. It's only 4 years, but it always seemed like it went way longer than that. Anyway, moving on to the actual what we're going to talk about. Do cafeterias exist? Yes, cafeterias do exist. My question to the people who don't have cafeterias in their high school is, where do you eat lunch? I don't know if it's just the fact that, like, your high schools have some sort of other arrangement, or what it happens to be, but my experience with high school, we called it the cafeteria. We also called it the lunchroom because we'd go have lunch there, obviously. We'd go into the lunchroom, and if we were bringing lunch from home that day, we would just go find a seat and start eating. But if you were having school lunch, as we called it, you would go get in line, you'd get your tray, you'd get whatever it was that they were having for lunch that day, and then you'd go sit down and eat with your friends, whatever else. When I was in high school, the cafeteria actually wasn't big enough to hold everybody, and so the cafeteria was adjacent to what we called the common area, or the commons, and we had a big open area that was next to like an outdoor kind of place where we could go if the weather was nice, if we wanted to. But the common area was right next to, like I said, right next to the cafeteria. You could go either grab your food, go sit down in the common area with your friends and eat, or again, you'd go to the cafeteria, grab your food, and then you could either go eat at one of the tables, or you could go and go out in the common area and eat there. There was once our school administration got kind of upset with us because people kept leaving their trays and stuff out in the common area rather than going and taking them back to the cafeteria. And so they said, okay, if you have school lunch, you have to eat in the cafeteria this week. And let me tell you, it was a pain because it was standing room only in there, let me tell you. Anyway. So yes, the cafeterias do exist. I would like to understand like what it is that you guys have, or what the perceived difference between, say, an American cafeteria where we're going to eat lunch, or whatever it is that you guys have where you eat lunch. So let me know down in the comments. It'd be interesting to see what the difference is between the two. Now, the question that I came across here wasn't exactly what are these things, more along the lines of, do they actually use these things? I'm not sure anymore. They may not use these as often as they used to, but when I was in school, these were called Scantrons. And basically, your teacher would go and create a test for the students to take, and they'd have an answer key, and it was an easy way for the teacher to administer and correct those tests really, really quickly, because they would have a computer and you'd just feed it into the computer, and it would based on the answer key that was provided by the teacher, it would check the answers electronically, and then report the grades back to the teacher. So the teacher didn't have to go through one by one and figure out if the student had answered correctly. They could just feed all of these in to the computer would come back with the results, and there you go. When I was in school, we used these not on every test and not a lot. And in college, if your teacher wanted to use a Scantron test, you actually had to go and buy the Scantron before you came to class. You'd have to go to the bookstore and get one of these. And the teacher would say, get this specific one, because there's ones that have their whole booklets that have multiples that you can take. There's ones that are just a single sheet, kind of a standard. What we think of as a standard sheet of paper is 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall. And so you'd have those, but you'd also have ones that were like more booklet form, that were for longer form tests, but you'd also have ones that were like half sheets or even quarter sheets that you could take. And the other thing is that they would, when I was younger, at least, they would use these for what we called standardized tests. So we have the Stanford Achievement Test, the ACT, some of the college entrance exams, some of the, like if you wanted to go to graduate school, they would have you use these particular types of tests to mark your answers. It just made it so that it was easier to score the test. I don't know that they use these as much as they used to, because a lot of what they can do, what they would do with these, has been taken over by computers. So with these, obviously, you have to run it through the computer. The students had to use a specific type of pencil. If they used a pencil where the lead in the pencil was too soft or too hard, it might not actually scan it right. So we had to use what was called a number 2 pencil, which was pretty standard. I don't know that I ever used or even saw a number 1 or a number 3 or whatever other types of pencils are out there. All the pencils I used as a school, as a student at school, they were always number 2 pencils. Even the mechanical pencils that we would use, they were always a number 2 pencil. So yeah, these exist. Like I said, I don't know that they're used much anymore. Maybe they are. I've been out of that kind of academic circle for a very long time. What I can tell you is that a lot of the tests and things that at least I administer to my students, and that I see that my kids use, they're in a learning management system like Canvas or Blackboard or some of the other ones out there, and you can put the same test that you would have a Scantron, you put it in one of these LMSs, and then the students can instantly get their grade at the end of the test when they submit the quiz or test for grading. So not sure how much these are used anymore, but yeah, they exist, and they were just an easy way to score tests. Moving on, snow days. Do schools actually close for snow days? Yes, they do. By extension, some places in the U.S. will also close because of fog days. I've never had this happen. I've never lived in an area where the fog was so bad that it caused a closure. As I understand it, some places like out in California, the Bay Area, San Francisco, that kind of thing, possibly up into Washington and stuff on the coast, they will have fog that's bad enough that they will cancel school. Where I live, we do have closures because of snow, but it's very, very rare here. I think that from when I started school at 5 years old to when I graduated from high school when I was 17, they closed school exactly one time for snow. And then in college, I've since in college they closed once because of snow, but seriously, it was snowing so bad that day. I went out and cleared the snow off the parking lot where I lived. I was maintenance for the apartment building, and so it was my job to clear the snow out of the parking lot. So I went and I cleared the snow out of the parking lot, and fortunately for me, the owners of the apartment complex, they bought a snowblower to help me out with that. It was very nice. I cleared off the snow 3 times that day. And the first time, actually every single time I cleared it off, I went out, and the first time I cleared it off, the snow was basically at the limit of the snowblower. So it was over a foot deep. And then I went out later and it was back to the same level, and I went out a third time, it was back to the same level, and then the next day I had to go and do it for a fourth time. At that point it was a lot less, but usually we make these closures not because of like just the snow. So it's not like if it snows we're definitely not going to have school tomorrow. At least here it's a safety thing. So if the roads can't be cleared quick enough by the snowplows and things, and this is main roads, not like side roads, because it'll snow around here, and I live in a neighborhood off of a main road, and so my subdivision probably won't get cleared off until the next day after the snow, whereas the main roads will get cleared off multiple times on that day. So it's very rare that they have a snow day, and it's usually, like I said, it's for a it's for safety reasons. If they don't think that, say, the school buses, it's safe to transport the children, they'll cancel school. And because they cancel school because the school buses, it's not safe for them to transport the children, then there's no reason, that can be quite a number of students. It could be half the school gets transported by the school bus, and if half the school is missing, you just have to close it for everybody. So that's usually the case of a school closure. It's because it was so unsafe that we can't hold school. Some places in the U.S. will close school because it's so cold that it's a bad idea to be outside in that weather. But that kind of varies depending on where you are. I did live I did live in another state for a little while, and in that state they didn't get a lot of snow, and because they didn't get a lot of snow, they didn't have a lot of snow clearing equipment, so they didn't have a lot of snow plows. They didn't have those, they didn't have the infrastructure to handle, and infrastructure is not the right word. They didn't have the equipment to handle snow. They did have some, but not a lot. And so for them, even a little bit of snow was quite a load to deal with, and they couldn't handle it. And so they would, if it did snow, which didn't happen very often, they would have a closure because they just didn't have the equipment to deal with the snow problem. In fact, in that particular state, it snowed, and it didn't snow very much by my standards. We would have a snowstorm around here, and we would normally get 4 to 6 inches in a single storm. They got maybe 3 inches, maybe 4, and it shut down the entire state. And some parts of the state lost power for multiple days. And that's never been a problem where I live here. We've never had a snow problem that closed that just closed the whole state, and then made it so that parts of the state lost power. That was never a problem here anyway. But we're so diverse across the United States that we have so many different areas that have so many different problems and different equipment to deal with those problems. I know that like some places back east, they just have so many issues and things with like humidity and things. That's why they have the fog problem. Whereas here we don't have the fog problem because it's never been a problem here. We're a very arid community, and so we sometimes get fog, but it's only in the winter. And fog usually isn't the problem in the winter. It's usually the snow and ice. So we do have snow days, and they're actually built into the school year. The school system expects that there could be a snow day, and so they build in extra time. If the school does end up being closed for a snow day, then when it comes later in the year, they'll have basically have a day that they can hold school that's a makeup day. And then if they didn't do a snow day, then the kids just get that day off of school. They don't have to go to school for that day. So yeah, snow days exist. They are real. And depending on where you are, you might have more, you might have less. Anyway, school lunch quality. This is something that's been complained about since I was in school. The quality is sometimes suspect. Yes. I always thought that school lunch was fine. It wasn't great. It was fine. Kind of one of those things where they complain about airline food. It's kind of that kind of complaint. It's like, oh, this again, kind of. Yeah, it's that. The thing is that they're paying for food to be given to the students. They're not going to be going out and shopping at the best places to buy food. They're not going to get the 3-star Michelin equivalent. They're going to give you what they consider a balanced meal. And they try to look at nutrition and what is going to be best as far as nutrition goes for the students. So they'll have a mix of foods. They'll have proteins. They'll have vegetables. They'll have fruit. They'll have dairy. They may have a dessert. They may not. They didn't always include something sweet for the students. Obviously, the picture here shows a cookie on the tray. We did have desserts with our meals. I remember that one of the things that I used to enjoy in my elementary school was when we would have our coffee cake. Now, it's not cake with coffee in it. It's cake served with coffee. So it was actually a vanilla chocolate marble cake. They just called it coffee cake for short. But anyway, that was one of the nice desserts. They also had fruit pies, cookies sometimes, always with the carton of milk. Yes. That was kind of for the dairy. We didn't always have something like a cheese or something that they threw in there, so they would always give us a carton of milk for that dairy. So really they're trying for a balanced diet. They would have, I don't know how much the nutritionists came into it, but they would have nutritionists supposedly working on it. Now, as far as having candy and stuff in lunches, that's more of a home lunch thing. The school may have done as a dessert type thing, so they may have done like a cookie or something like that with your meal. But anytime you would see candy in a lunch, that was somebody was bringing it from home. And they have things like Lunchables. Lunchables is a small, barely adequate in my mind, prepackaged lunch that you can get from the store. And the company that makes them teamed up with or owns candy companies, and so they'd always throw in like some sort of candy into the the mix as well. So yeah, the quality was not always the best, but I can't say that unless you were going to a fancy boarding school where your parents were paying tuition to send you there, that you were going to get the highest quality food in the meal anyway. So if you were getting the highest quality meal, you were bringing that from home yourself. And then, like I said, with candy, that was something that you brought from home. They did try to make that a balanced diet to help with nutrition and stuff. And now my kids' school, they actually monitor them more closely than they did when I was in school. And so they actually have a lot more to do with making sure the kids are getting a more balanced mix of nutrients and all that other stuff. They actually now have things where if you don't like something, you can go and exchange it for something else that you might like better. And this isn't just like, for instance, they're serving oranges that day. You can't like go switch it for a cookie. That's not the thing is. But they could go and say switch it for an apple or switch it for some carrots. So they have that ability now to kind of switch out some of this stuff, but still trying to keep it as balanced as they can and as high quality as they can within reason. That being said, can't always say that the school lunches impressed me with their quality. Some were a lot better than others. The pizza in school lunch left a lot to be desired, and I was grateful to get to high school where they gave us more choices in what we could choose for lunch. When I was in elementary school, it was everybody had the same thing for lunch. When I got into junior high and high school, they actually expanded that. So they always had pizza. They always had a salad bar in both, but they would have a third thing that if you didn't want the other two, you could have that instead. So I usually opted for whatever the third choice was. I'm not very big on vegetables. I eat them. They're not my favorite. And definitely the school pizza was, in my mind, not inedible. But I had a lot of friends that would eat the pizzas because they just liked I guess they liked the way it tasted, but ugh. Anyway, if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. Like and subscribe as always. And until next time, hey, if you have something Americanish that you want me to discuss, want me to kind of illuminate why we Americans do that, or say that, or whatever, hey, let me know. Again, down in the comments. Thanks. Bye.